History remembers him as one of the most feared conquerors who ever lived. A man whose armies shook continents, whose horsemen rode farther than any empire before them, whose name became synonymous with destruction. But history rarely tells you where that story truly began. Not on a battlefield, not inside a royal palace, but in the freezing grasslands of Mongolia, where a hungry child searched for roots just to survive another day. Before he was called Genghis Khan, he was Temujin, a forgotten boy, an orphan, abandoned by his own people, a slave, a fugitive, a survivor. Every betrayal became a lesson, every hardship became strength, every enemy became another step toward destiny. This is not merely the story of the world's greatest conqueror. It is the story of how unimaginable suffering forged one of history's most extraordinary leaders.
Long before he became the ruler of millions, Temujin was born around 1162 near the Onan River in the harsh wilderness of Mongolia. There were no cities, no castles, no permanent homes, only endless grasslands where survival depended on strength, loyalty, and the ability to ride before a child could even remember walking. His father, Yesugi, was a respected tribal chief of the Borjigin clan. His mother, Hoylan, had herself been kidnapped and forced into marriage years earlier, a harsh reality of life on the steppe. Temujin entered a world where every tribe fought for pasture, horses, and honor. Children learned to hunt before they learned to read. The weather could kill as easily as an enemy. Food was never guaranteed. From the very beginning, survival was the greatest teacher. No one could have imagined that this child, born into a small nomadic clan, would one day unify the scattered tribes of Mongolia and reshape the map of the world. Temujin's childhood changed forever before he was even 10 years old. One day, his father, Yesuge, set out on what seemed like an ordinary journey. Along the way, he encountered members of the rival Tatar tribe. Hiding his true identity, he accepted their hospitality and shared a meal with them. But the Tatars recognized him. Seeking revenge for old conflicts, they secretly poisoned his food. Yesubang managed to return home, but the poison was already taking its toll. Weak and dying, he called for young Temujin, hoping to prepare him for the uncertain future ahead. Before long, the respected tribal chief was dead. For most noble families, the death of a leader meant another relative would assume command, but life on the Mongolian steppe was far more unforgiving. Without Yesuge's authority, the Borjigin clan abandoned his widow Hoylan and her children. They believed a woman and her young sons could never protect the tribe or lead it through endless wars. Overnight, the family lost everything: horses, livestock, protection, and social status. The unrespected family became outcasts. They wandered the cold grasslands with no allies and little food. Every sunrise became another battle against starvation. Every sunset was a reminder that no one was coming to save them. For Temujin, this was the first brutal lesson about power. He learned that loyalty often disappeared when strength was gone, that titles meant nothing without the ability to defend them, and deep inside the heart of the frightened child, a silent promise began to grow. One day, he would build a nation where loyalty would be earned, not inherited, and where betrayal would never be forgotten. Abandoned by their tribe, Temujin's family entered the darkest chapter of their lives. The endless Mongolian steppe, once a symbol of freedom, became a land of constant hunger. Without horses, livestock, or loyal followers, Hoylan struggled every day to keep her children alive. She gathered wild berries, dug up edible roots, trapped small animals, and caught fish from icy rivers. Even then, there was rarely enough food for everyone. Every meal became a fight for survival. Among the family was Bektur, Temujin's older half-brother. According to the traditions of the steppe, the eldest male often claimed the largest share of whatever food was found. As starvation worsened, Bektur repeatedly took more than his share, leaving Temujin, his younger brothers, and even their mother with almost nothing. For Temujin, this was no longer just about food, it was about survival. One day, after another bitter argument, Temujin and his younger brother Qasar made a decision that would forever change history. They followed Bektur across the open grasslands. Armed with bows, they confronted him. Bektur understood what was about to happen. Historical accounts suggest he did not resist. Instead, he accepted his fate, only asking that his younger brother Bilgute be spared. Moments later, Temujin released his arrow. Bektur fell. It was a shocking act, even by the harsh standards of Mongol life. Many historians view this moment not as an act of cruelty alone, but the desperate decision of a starving boy trapped in unimaginable circumstances. It also revealed something that would define Temujin's future leadership. He believed that survival of the family and later the nation came before personal relationships. This painful chapter shaped the young boy into someone who understood that leadership demanded difficult choices, and that weakness, whether born from fear, indecision, or division, could destroy everyone. Life on the Mongolian steppe had already tested Temujin with hunger, loss, and violence. But an even greater trial was about to begin. As Temujin grew older, the rival Taichachud tribe saw him not as a helpless orphan, but as the son of Yasuge, a boy who might one day seek revenge and reclaim his father's legacy. To eliminate that possibility, they captured him. Bound in heavy wooden stocks, known as a kang, Temujin was paraded through the camp as a prisoner. The thick wooden collar around his neck made it almost impossible to move, eat, or sleep. Every step was painful. Every day was meant to break his spirit. For the Taichachud, he was no longer a person. He was a warning to anyone who dared challenge their authority. Yet even in captivity, Temujin carefully observed everything around him. He memorized the guards' routines, watched who showed kindness, and waited patiently for the one opportunity that might never come. Then, one evening, fate intervened. During a tribal celebration, the camp became distracted. Under the cover of darkness, Temujin slipped away, still dragging the heavy wooden collar around his neck. His escape was discovered almost immediately, and warriors spread across the steppe to hunt him down. Exhausted and desperate, Temujin hid in a river, lowering his body beneath the cold water while keeping only his face above the surface to breathe. It seemed impossible that he could survive. But a man named Sorkhan Shira, a member of the very tribe holding him captive, found the frightened boy. Instead of betraying him, Sorkhan Shira made a courageous choice. He secretly sheltered Temujin, removed the wooden collar, and later helped him escape beyond the reach of the Taichachud. That single act of compassion changed history. Temujin never forgot it. Years later, when he rose to power, he rewarded Sorkhan Shira and his family with honor and high status, not because of noble birth, but because of loyalty and courage. It became one of the earliest examples of the principle that would define his empire. Merit mattered more than blood. After escaping captivity, Temujin was no longer just a survivor. Years earlier, before his father's death, Yasuge had arranged a marriage between young Temujin and a girl named Borte of the Ongirat tribe. Such alliances were common among the nomadic peoples of the steppe, strengthening trust between families and tribes. But after years of hardship, exile, and slavery, many believed that promise would never be fulfilled. Yet Temujin refused to abandon his father's final wish. With little more than determination and his mother's support, he journeyed across the vast Mongolian grasslands to the camp of Borte's family. Though he possessed no wealth, no army, and no political power, he carried something far more valuable: his unwavering resolve. Borte accepted him as her husband. Their marriage marked far more than the union of two young people. It became the foundation of Temujin's future. Unlike many political marriages of the era, historical sources suggest that Borte became one of Temujin's most trusted advisors. She understood the brutal realities of steppe life and remained beside him through triumph and tragedy alike. As a wedding gift, Borte's family presented Temujin with a magnificent black sable coat, a luxurious item worth far more than its appearance suggested. Rather than keeping it for himself, Temujin made a remarkable decision. He offered the sable coat to Togrul, the powerful ruler of the Karate tribe, who had once been an ally of his father. It was not simply a gift, it was a calculated act of diplomacy. That single gesture reopened an old alliance and gave Temujin something he desperately lacked, a powerful friend. It was the first clear sign that Temujin understood a lesson many warriors never learned. Empires are not built by swords alone. They are built through trust, alliances, and wise decisions. For a brief moment, Temujin believed life was finally beginning to reward his perseverance. He had reclaimed his father's alliance with Togrul Khan, married Borte, and begun rebuilding his small following. But on the Mongolian steppe, peace was often short-lived. One night, disaster struck. A large force from the Merkit tribe descended upon Temujin's camp under the cover of darkness. The attack was swift and merciless. Horses screamed, warriors clashed in the darkness, families fled into the endless grasslands. Temujin and a handful of loyal companions managed to escape, but Borte was captured. For the Merkit, this was not a random raid, it was an act of revenge. Years earlier, Temujin's father, Yesuge, had abducted Hoelin, Temujin's mother, from a Merkit man. Now, the Merkit believed they were settling an old score by taking Borte. For Temujin, the loss was devastating. He was still a young leader with only a small number of followers. Attempting a rescue alone would have meant certain death. Instead of rushing blindly into battle, Temujin made a decision that revealed his growing brilliance as a strategist. He sought help. First, he rode to Togrul Khan of the Kariat, honoring the alliance he had carefully rebuilt. Then he turned to his childhood blood brother, Jamuka, whose influence among the Mongol tribes was rapidly growing. Together, the three leaders assembled a powerful coalition of warriors. It was one of the first great military alliances in Mongol history. Launching a surprise attack before dawn, they overwhelmed the Merkit camps. The enemy scattered under the fury of their assault. After months of captivity, Borte was finally rescued. Her return meant more than the reunion of husband and wife. It proved that loyalty, diplomacy, and united strength could accomplish what one man alone never could. For Temujin, this victory became a turning point. He realized that the future of Mongolia depended not on divided tribes fighting endless wars, but on unity under capable leadership. It was an idea that would soon transform the entire steppe. On the vast Mongolian steppe, trust was often more valuable than gold. During Temujin's youth, he formed an extraordinary bond with another young warrior named Jamuka. The two became Onda, blood brothers, a sacred oath that symbolized absolute loyalty and lifelong friendship. They hunted together, rode across the endless grasslands, and dreamed of a future where they would stand side by side as leaders. For years, Jamuka was more than a friend. He was Temujin's closest ally and someone he trusted with his life. Their friendship would later rescue Berta from the Merkit tribe, proving the strength of their bond. But destiny had different plans. As Temujin's influence spread, both men began pursuing the same dream, to unite the Mongolian tribes under one leader. Their shared ambition slowly transformed friendship into rivalry. The oath of brotherhood that once united them would eventually divide the entire Mongolian steppe and shape the future of history forever. Temujin and Jamuka had once sworn eternal brotherhood. But as Temujin's influence grew, their visions collided. Jamukha defended the old aristocratic order, while Temujin promoted loyalty and merit above noble birth. Friendship gave way to rivalry, forever changing Mongolia's future. In 1206, after years of relentless warfare and diplomacy, the Mongol tribes gathered beside the Onan River. They proclaimed Temujin as Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. For the first time, the divided tribes stood united under one leader, marking the birth of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan transformed scattered tribal warriors into the world's most disciplined cavalry. Promotions were based on merit, not noble birth. Organized into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, the Mongol army became a fast, loyal, and unstoppable fighting force. Genghis Khan united his empire under the Yasa, a code of laws that emphasized discipline, justice, and loyalty. Religious freedom was respected, and promotions depended on courage and ability rather than noble birth, creating one of history's most efficient systems of leadership.
With Mongolia united, Genghis Khan turned outward. His army swept across northern China, defeating the powerful Jin dynasty before advancing into Central Asia. After the Khwarezmian Empire executed Mongol envoys, Genghis launched a devastating campaign unlike anything the world had seen. City after city fell before his disciplined cavalry, expanding the Mongol Empire from the Pacific frontier to the heart of Central Asia. As the Mongol Empire expanded, Genghis Khan transformed conquest into connection. Under the Pax Mongolica, much of Eurasia experienced an unprecedented era of stability. Merchants, diplomats, scholars, and travelers moved more safely along the Silk Road, protected by Mongol authority. Trade flourished as silk, spices, precious metals, and new ideas crossed continents. Postal relay stations, secure trade routes, and religious tolerance strengthened communication, linking East and West more closely than ever before and reshaping the course of world history. In 1227, during his final campaign against the Western Jia, Genghis Khan died under circumstances that remain one of history's greatest mysteries. Contemporary sources offer conflicting accounts, and the exact cause of his death is still debated. Honoring his final wishes, his burial place was kept secret. According to tradition, the funeral procession concealed its route, leaving no confirmed trace of his tomb. More than 8 centuries later, the resting place of the founder of the Mongol Empire remains one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries. History remembers Genghis Khan in 2 very different ways. To many, he was a ruthless conqueror whose campaigns brought unimaginable destruction. To others, he was a visionary leader who united divided tribes, established merit-based leadership, protected trade across Eurasia, and reshaped the medieval world. His empire connected distant civilizations, accelerated the exchange of ideas, technology, and culture, and left a legacy that still influences history today. More than 8 centuries later, the debate continues. Was Genghis Khan history's greatest destroyer, or one of its most transformative leaders? Perhaps he was both. His story reminds us that the people who changed the world are rarely remembered in simple terms. From an abandoned child searching for roots on the frozen steppe, to the founder of the largest contiguous empire in history, Genghis Khan proved that adversity can forge extraordinary leaders. His legacy remains complex, controversial, and impossible to ignore. Whether remembered as a conqueror, a lawgiver, or a visionary, one truth endures: he changed the course of human history forever.